Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to your program again, Talking Point Show. I still remain your host, Onigmide Raphael. On the show today, we'll be talking about the importance of culture in our society. And discussing this with me, I have Engineer Dr. Elijah Aderigbe. Engineer, you're welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, we would like to ask you, what is culture?
Well, culture can be defined in many ways, depending on the angle you are looking at it. But generally, it deals with ideas, it deals with customs and the social behavior of a particular society or group of people in an organized settings or even unorganized setting, which is believed to be the standard practice in that area.
You know, one thing we've discovered in our present society is that when it comes to culture, there are a lot of things that is happening that we can't even say some culture are still existing. Some culture has gone into extinction. Why do culture exist in the first place?
Yeah, it's like we defined the other time, that it sets the mode of and way of behavior, social behavior. It brings out the custom of people. So culture is an identity. When you look at it from that angle, it's an identity that when they see the way somebody behaves, the way he does his own thing, or the way a certain family does their thing, they can identify them. These people are from this area. These people are this. So it's when it distinguishes us out of others, and it also links us with others. Distinguishes in the sense that it's an identity. You have your own identity. You have your own customs. You have your ideas, the way you behave from others. For example, a typical Yoruba person, if it's a male, will prostrate for its elder. A female will kneel down. And if you look at South Koreans, they bow almost halfway. And you know them with that culture. And you don't. And you know, a typical European man when he's greeting others can shake. So you know, this person is is from this area, or it already has this kind of background.
Okay, sir. How do different tribes formulate or come to the formulation of their culture? Like you said now, you said the South Koreans, they bow, a Yoruba man will prostrate, and the white men, they do the handshake. Yeah. So how did they come about those formulations that, okay, this way we should do our thing?
I think it started from the way when they are with the evolution of that particular group. And I think it's a very difficult thing to really say, because you have to go back to the history. But you just know that you meet, this is how you do it. Your parent teaches you how to do it, or you see your people doing it, and you also consciously or unconsciously, yes, you do it. Even if you don't do it, you are made to do it. Why you can serve punishment
because
by not doing it, because it's the right thing to be done, and you do it. So how it started, one will have to go back to the history. But like I said during the definition, that from generation to generation, there may be some changes, some modifications on what is being done. For example, now we say a typical Yoruba man will prostrate. Most Yoruba men now will just bow, and at best, like they will say in Yoruba, as if you want to plant a corn, because you are not prostrating fully. you just bow and touch your toe or touch the ground instead of really lie flat on the ground. And to some extent, the elderly people also accept it. Unlike before, they will frown at it. Like I said, you may be sanctioned for doing that.
Okay, sir, I've been thinking of this. Why do we even have cultural diversity, especially in this aspect of greeting? Like you see the Hausa people now, if they want to greet you, you see the way they squat. If the Yoruba want to do their greeting, the way they prostrate. The white man, being how old you are, they will stretch out their hand for handshake. Why do you have that cultural diversity? Why can't we everybody just agree that, okay, the proper way to greet now is to do handshake, or the proper way to greet now is to prostrate?
Yeah, the reason why there are differences or why people do it differently is that, number one, we are from different social groups. We are having different backgrounds. That background and the belief will affect what you do, what you believe in, what should be done. It's just like asking, why are some people serving this and this one serving this? Even though we all know that we claim to serve the same God, but the way to serve differs, and that difference make those religions different. So also culture. Now, somebody who is educated now, in those days in school, the mark of good education is that you cannot speak your language. The more grammar you can speak, then the more they believe that family is educated. But it is now we are even seeing that it's wrong. So the background, the belief, and what is trending makes them different.
Yeah. Okay, sir. How much more do you think civilization has affected individual culture?
Yeah, it has actually affected the culture greatly, especially with the kind of internet access to internet we have now, and people traveling within a few hours to other continents, studying there, coming back with a different idea or modified ideas. So with that, I think it's really has effects. For example, now somebody who studied in abroad, by the time he comes back, or their children, when they come back home, their outlook will be different from those who are homegrown, because they are exposed to this kind of customs, to those of the kind of tradition in that area. Now when they come back, they will not find out that they are different from those they meet at home. Because now if you are educated, for example, it's not our culture that when another person has spoken, that you go against him. But because of education, by the time you come back, you don't find out that. So far, if this junior one has a superior argument, the elderly person, if he's educated, will not mind, and then he gains from him or her. Unlike before, that even whether you have idea, you don't have any idea, because you are young, you can't speak. So it really has effect, both positive and negative effects.
So now, can we say civilization is a culture itself that have override individual's culture?
I wouldn't say that. I see civilization as something that modifies the way we do things. So, like, after all, civilization now is reversing the old trend that now if you have your children and they cannot speak your native language, then you are not educated. Meanwhile, before, it's the other way around. So, civilization itself, I see it as modification tool, which sharpens or which modifies, which try to change the way we look at things. You have your own discretion. Then you look at it from other backgrounds, other cultural background, and see which one makes sense to you.
Oh, sir, on the aspect of language, how can individual prevent or protect their language from this civilization? Because now, from this angle of Africa where we are, like you said, sir, if you don't speak the colonized language, it's assumed that you are not there. So, and if you have been speaking your own dialect, your own indigenous language, it's assumed that you are not educated or you are local. And even both at home, in school, everywhere, what everyone wants to be seen that you are speaking the English or the French or the Chinese language, but you speaking your main indigenous language, you will be regarded as someone who is not there yet.
Yeah, like I said, there's modification of things. Everyone should protect their languages, and in United Nations, it's a very strong. There's a strong effort to make sure every language or dialect is protected, so that none of them should go into extinction. And of course, that brings us to the education which we practice. That at the background of those who draw the curriculum for schools, it should be part and parcel of it. For example, in the 60s and 70s, you have to go through history of Nigeria, history of West Africa, history of Africa. And if you go to the university, I'm sure most universities, they do that. If you are a science-based student, you go and do in general paper or general studies, you will be made to study humanities, to study all those languages if possible, and I mean the culture, history, so that it brings to your consciousness. So the protection comes when the students are made to feel proud of their local languages. I was reading maybe last week on the internet a family that's met with some Japanese, and those ones were blowing their own local language, and they now look at their own and they found out that they could not even speak. I think they are Yoruba family. They couldn't speak Yoruba, and they had to be annoyed with their parents. And of course, the man who wrote the article confessed and agreed that it was his fault because their mother tried to do so. So, which means, right from the day a child is born, be speaking all these languages to them. Let them be able to pick. Let them, if you are in the country, once a while when you are opportunity to travel home, go with them. Let them know the place. Let them be able to interact with people there. Up to the dialect, they should be preserved, and you see, they feel belonging into that society. They may not be able to speak it well, but at a point, at the initial stage it may be very slow, but at a point they'll be able to speak it very well, and even when the parents are gone, they are the ones to continue and teach their own children, and then it will not be forgotten entirely. Look at the Yorubas, Yoruba orthography, like Ilesha, Ogbomoso, used to be written like ILESHA.
And it's wrong.
But later they found that, okay, the European will help us to develop our alphabet, because they can't be able to spread those in very well. That's why we put SH. But now in Yoruba talk, we do put SA. S with a dot on the S. The same thing for Gumosho, things like that. So because people are now educated, they could put the benefits of that education from the European point of the Western point of view with their own culture and say, okay, then we can modify it to also bear the real thing that it should be and whatever. So even who tells you cannot teach some of these subjects in our local language? After all, other people are doing it. The Dutch, the Chinese, the Japanese, they even Indians, they teach in their languages. And I remember when I was with an elderly person, is late, and I saw him. He was reading respiration, all these systems, biological systems, respiration, assimilation, all those things, digestion. They wrote it in Yoruba language, and I was reading it and I was understanding it.
Wow, beautiful.
So those who are educated, who could combine, I think we should preserve it by those. Let's start from a point.
Wow, it's been an amazing time with you, sir. we would love to continue, but because of our time, it's been a wonderful time with you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we draw the curtain of today's show. Please don't forget to join us next time.